Harvey Weinstein, if Meryl Streep calls him God, there's a reason. What would you call your job? Are you a movie mogul? You are.
No. You know, people go, oh, he's a mogul. What is a mogul? The image I have of a mogul is a guy who smokes cigars.
I got to figure every starlet in Hollywood wanted to at least blow you. You never got any of that?
Howard, as you know only too well, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't really?
No, I'll tell you who it works that way for. It works that way for the actors.
No,
you know,
come on. Every girl knows that if she...
I've been silenced for 20 years. I have been slut-shamed. I have been harassed.
He absolutely harassed me. He abused his power, and he lorded it over me with vitriol and abuse of charm for 2 years.
When I've spoken in anger, I usually regret the way I express myself. So I've been waiting to feel less angry. And when I'm ready, I'll say what I have to say.
Okay.
Harvey, are you doing okay?
Thank you. Guys, I'm not doing okay.
You're not?
I'm trying. I gotta get help, guys. You know what? We all make mistakes. Second chance, I hope, okay?
The profile I did of Harvey in 2002 is called Beauty and the Beast. And the beauty is that he was a really talented son of a bitch. And he deserves credit for that. But he deserves blame for being this monster. Most people in that world knew, oh, it's Harvey. I mean, that was a very common phrase. I mean, you put an attractive woman in a room alone with them, and boy, no good is coming out of that.
You heard the stories of, like, don't be alone with Harvey. Why can't I be alone with Harvey? Now it's Harvey Weinstein, so if Harvey Weinstein looks at you and you're studying acting, you're like, oh. But then you have people in the industry being like, don't ever sit at his table. Don't ever go alone.
Of course, thought the Harvey story was important, knew about it for a long time. I didn't imagine that when it finally broke, there would be this kind of response. I don't think anybody did. It's more than whispering. I mean, the first time I met Harvey, we had an off-the-record lunch in Beverly Hills. He came in very aggressive. He said, what have you heard about me? And I said, I've heard you rape women. But I will say he wasn't outraged. He didn't go like a normal person. You would say, what are you talking about? It wasn't like that at all.
It just appears to be Hollywood's worst-kept secret as the number of Hollywood actresses coming forward now with accusations of sexual misconduct against Harvey Weinstein continues to grow.
Yesterday, Lupita Nyong'o published an extraordinary essay in the Times where she talked about her story and said it took place in his own Connecticut home, and apparently his children were just a room or two away.
Actress Selma Hayek says that Harvey Weinstein is her monster, too. Weinstein once said to her, I will kill you. Don't think I can't.
Actress Uma Thurman is telling the New York Times about several disturbing incidents with the one-time powerful movie producer, one of which got frighteningly physical.
A spokesman for Harvey Weinstein insists any allegations of non-consensual sex are unequivocally denied by Mr. Weinstein, while the company he founded with his brother Bob issues a statement saying the allegations against Harvey Weinstein came as a, quote, utter surprise.
Patty, how did it go today? Harvey fired? Can I just have a statement from you, please? Buddy, any comments on the news, please? What's next, Patty? Did he get fired today or not? Were you guys get fighting? Good luck in there. Thank you, Patty. What happens next?
We knew there were bad people that worked there. And so when it comes out in the paper, you almost can't believe that it broke through because you know what they're capable of doing. You know what kind of influence they have on the industry. So you know something catastrophic must have happened for that story to finally come out. I thought I would go to my grave and no one would ever know, just what kind of people they were.
I think this story has so much momentum. I don't know how long it's going to run, but it's going to run for a long time yet. Harvey Weinstein was just the beginning of it. And after only about 2 or 3 weeks of watching that story unfold, you could tell that this had legs and that more was going to happen, more people were going to fall, and of course, it's been a snowball. We're still at the point where we don't know when we get up in the morning who's going to be today's fallen man.
Tonight, dozens of sexual harassment claims are surfacing against writer and director James Toback.
CBS suspended correspondent
ABC News
Charlie
today
Rose.
fired Today Show anchor Matt Lauer.
Now, 5 women have come forward accused
following
allegations of sexual misconduct.
Masturbating in front of them or engaging in other sexual misconduct.
There has to be the one to come forward first. Because you know, once someone does it, everybody will be like, oh, thank God, okay, me too, me too, me too. That's what Me Too means.
An untold number of women posted Me Too and revealed their deeply intimate experiences of abuse.
Either we support victims and condemn predators, or we don't. We can't pick and choose certain predators, certain victims.
It obviously needs to be talked about, or it wouldn't have hit this tipping point. It's not just me that did this. It's not just Gwyneth that came forward, or Rose McGowan, or Ashley Judd. It's like everyone. It took 2 seconds for the Me Too movement to explode. That's for a reason.
24 hours later, the Me Too tweets are in excess of 1.2 million tweets from women around the world.
This morning, we are taking a look at the far-reaching impact of the Me Too movement. So it's interesting to read, Jody and Megan, that before the story broke, both of you said, is anybody going to care about this?
Some people said it's an open secret. Everybody in Hollywood has known for a long time. They told us that we were naive and idealistic, that we would publish our little story and life would go on. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Megan, what it has done is essentially unleashed a tidal wave of reporting and allegations.
That's right. I mean, I think this country is having, well, it goes beyond the United States at this point, is having a real reckoning. I mean, how was it that for so many years there were men in a variety of industries who were able to get away with predatory behavior basically unchecked?
I hadn't been in the industry that long, so this was my 3rd film. Harvey was on the set a lot. Which people actually commented was strange because this was a teen film. This wasn't one of his, Oscar contenders. What was he doing on this film, spending so much time on the sidelines? He took me to lunch, and I very quickly, within, 1 or 2 sentences, knew that he was someone that you had to sort of deal with, that he was throwing things out at me like inappropriate suggestions about my love life and experiences I'd had and questions he was asking. But I prided myself on being this tough sort of city girl, so I thought, I got this. He knew that I was an English major and I liked to read, so he took me to a bookstore and he bought me all these books. And then one in particular was The Last Tycoon, which he said, this is me. I'm the last tycoon. And don't forget that. You're like thinking to yourself, is this guy for real? And yes, he was. He was conniving and witty and brilliant and devastating. I have a journal from that time, and I called him the assassin because he was someone who had total control and could probably kill you at any moment.
Harvey now everyone sees as this sort of repulsive monster, which he was and is on one hand, but I think what is interesting and what isn't maybe brought forward is that he was also an extremely exciting, brilliant, stimulating person to be around. Everybody came to him, and he held all the cards.
I want to thank Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
I would like to thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein, who believed in us and made this movie.
Harvey Weinstein.
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein.
Especially Harvey. And God.
Money often makes people turn away from things that they know.
First up this morning, new disturbing allegations today against Harvey Weinstein and those accused of enabling his alleged crimes. Harvey Weinstein did not act alone, that in fact he was enabled by his own company for years. These honeypots, these young assistants who they used to make women feel comfortable about taking meetings, and then the assistant would suddenly be gone. That the company was essentially leading women in there like lambs to the slaughter.
I don't see how he could possibly perpetrate a pattern of alleged behavior the way he allegedly did without assistance, you know? And I mean, people knew. I mean, I knew. I always say, if I knew, how would other people not know?
The real shock was the New York Times investigation that showed Creative Artists Associates, the powerful agency, knew about Harvey's behavior and continued to send their actresses into his clutches, if you will.
I know that it's a big boys club, and it still is a big boys club, but you're talking about pimping, downright pimping.
Let's remember what was at play here. These were women who wanted to do one thing, go to work. That's all. They wanted to go to work. They wanted to sit in a meeting and address the substantive issue in front of them. And so offering them up to somebody to get a deal done, offering them up as though they were dispensable, is what's at issue here. And that's unconscionable.
Harassers do not operate in isolation. There's hardly ever a situation where the people surrounding that individual are not aware of what's going on. They might not know every single detail, but they're gonna know, does he lock the door when a female employee is in there meeting with him? Does he hold a lot of meetings in his office? Does he have a couch in his office? And it is a rare case where people around a leader of a company don't know.
His assistant, a woman who I was dealing with on a daily basis, calls me and says, "Hey, Melissa, did you get that per diem? How's your room? How was that upgrade? Everything cool? Oh, and then the car is coming to pick you up for the interview. Oh, and by the way, so Harvey wants to meet you tonight. You're cool, right? Good. You trust this woman." So he was very smart in having the women doing his bidding for him. Because you just thought, well, how bad can it be? I felt like I was in a movie about a movie. I mean, I felt like I'm going to see The Last Tycoon. I'm going to see these old, Hollywood studio execs, and he was gonna be sitting there with a cigar and like, "Come here, Sage Miller, sit on my lap." I don't know. It was just so cliche. It was ridiculous. I went in there with a mission, let's talk about the script. I had some ideas. He probably humored me for about 2 minutes with that type of talk, and then went straight for like, I, really like a massage. I just got out of the shower. Sage Miller, you're so smart. You could be, I see you as a star, well, let's just say Gwyneth Paltrow did it. Renee Zellweger did it. Charlize did it. He's like, it's very simple. I gave him shit. I was like, really? You're really gonna be like that? Come on. That's when he, I think put his hand on the door and said, "You're not going anywhere until you kiss me." I knew at that point I was trapped physically. He wasn't letting me out. And so I just said, "Okay, I'll kiss you, but you have to let me leave as soon as I kiss you." And I kissed him. And then that's when he opened the door and was like, "See, was that so bad? Was that so hard?" That's all I wanted. And the sad thing is that I bullied myself about what had happened. I said, "You stupid girl, you thought you could handle yourself with the assassin." Like it was my fault. But I got away. Compared to what happened to other women, I feel lucky that I got out of that hotel room with just having to kiss him.
Everybody now says, why did everyone go to his hotel room? It wasn't as simple as that. Everybody went to his hotel. This was where he did business. It wasn't in his bedroom, it was in his suite. You had top agents, top movie stars, male and female, coming in hourly for meetings. This was his place of business.
You think about it, he was in power for 30 years. He was considered a pretty big name in Hollywood. He met me on a random night, and within an hour, he was, exposing himself to me and cornering me and telling me to be quiet and stand there. 1 hour. So in my mind, I thought, if that's what he did to me, I can't imagine how many other women he crosses paths with and does this to.
In this case, we allege that Harvey Weinstein was engaging in sexual misconduct and that he was using his position to bring young, aspiring actresses into vulnerable places where he would then prey on them.
And meeting Harvey was, for me, like everything, thinking this is an opportunity.
You're meeting with like a very powerful guy in Hollywood that makes a lot of actresses' careers happen.
He called me into his office and told me to sit on the couch. He then sat down next to me and proceeded to tell me how things worked in Hollywood.
He returned in nothing but a robe, with the front open, and he was buck naked.
Took hold of me and pretty much forced me to walk with him to the bathroom where he stood me in front of the mirror.
The next thing I knew, he had unzipped his fly and pulled out his penis.
He then orally forced himself on me while I was on my period.
I didn't know how to say no to someone like him at the time, which I regret.
He said, oh, you have similar traits to Lauren Bacall, telling me like I have a star quality and all this stuff and I could make it in Hollywood. That's when he kind of insinuated that things worked that way and kind of forced me to do something that I didn't want to do. If I hadn't been in a vulnerable career space, that probably wouldn't have happened, but I actually needed a break.
In Hollywood, there's a name for what happened here. It's called the casting couch. So this case is really about putting the casting couch on trial.
All right, Mr. Shields. Isn't this scene supposed to go something like this? I'll make your test for you, and you'll be good to me, and I'll be good to you.
I mean, I'd like to do something for you if you'd do something for me.
Don't you realize that I can make you the biggest star on Broadway?
You see that man? That's Max Fabian, the producer. Now go and do yourself some good.
Why do they always look like unhappy rabbits?
Because that's what they are. Go and make him happy.
For a long time in the entertainment business, the phrase "the casting couch" was kind of a joke. It's no secret, I think, all these years that the entertainment business, especially where the powerful men are concerned, have had their way with the women that they wanted to. And I think women were afraid to challenge these powerful men because their careers depended on the decisions these men made about what movies or shows to put them into.
The original casting couch was a piece of furniture in the office of Max Sennett. And it's where he interviewed the various Max Sennett bathing beauties. And they did put out in the other most famous casting couch that was actually a separate bedroom behind the office of Daryl Zanuck at Fox. And he wasn't to be disturbed any afternoon, Monday to Friday, from 4 to 5. That was the bedroom hour.
This has been part of our world since time immemorial. As it were, the top of, the ladder of, is a system of harassment and belittling and bullying and interference and what my mother would have referred to in the olden days as pestering. Is he pestering you?
He had a tendency to become obsessed a little.
He had me followed. He did things like have my handwriting analyzed. He just wanted to control all, my life. It wasn't the kind of deal that I would make. And he said, I'll ruin your career, and he did.
I think that it's been something that's been going on certainly since I started. And at one industry party, I was dancing with the head of the studio, and he said, I would like to get you a little apartment. I'll come and visit you 2 and 3 times a week, and I will guarantee that you will get the pick of all the scripts at 20th Century Fox.
My mother taught me a proverb. If you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas.
I think that the idea that, oh, it's just Hollywood, it's the way it's always been, there's always been couch casting. I mean, that's a horrible way to look at the world. But to say because they did it back then, that we shouldn't call them out when their behavior is inappropriate, that's silly. I mean, we're trying to make the world a better place. We're not trying to hold in place a system that was so unequal and so biased.
Hi, my name's Jack Jericho.
Jack Jericho is a master in the art of meeting women.
I didn't know anything. I've never heard of James Toback in my life. I was coming out of a facial, and this man ran up to me and said, oh my gosh, I saw you from across the street. You just had this aura. I would never forgive myself if I didn't come over and talk to you. Have you ever thought of being an actress?
And he said, I'm James Toback. I do films, and he told me all about himself. And I said, oh, okay. And he goes, I want you to star in my next film.
He said he was working on a script, blah, 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 Robert Downey Jr.
No, I'm actually not an actress. But he said, well, I like your look anyway, and here's my number. I want you to call me.
Let me be really clear about this. Okay. The idea that I would offer parts to anyone for any other reason than that he or she was going to be the best of anyone I could find is so disgusting to me. And anyone who says it is a lying cocksucker or a cunt or both. Can I be any clearer than that? No, that's pretty clear.
This is my big break. I just meet a guy off the subway, and I'm gonna be in the star in his film. So I was really excited, very excited. And he said, let's take a walk in Central Park.
I had the thought in my head, oh, the park is, lots of people. I'm gonna be safe. I didn't think I wasn't safe.
He took me to, in Central Park, a rock.
And we went and sat on this rock. He told me that this is where all the gay men go to have orgies.
Just talked about my nipples, talked about my tits.
Asking me about how often I masturbated, what type of sex that I like to have.
He then knelt down and started humping my leg.
He threatened to tell, if I said anything, he had people that would definitely silence me. I'm just out of high school. I'm young.
I thought that I was going to be raped. And if somebody found me, who would think that James Toback was the perpetrator?
I would probably just say to him, you may not even know how wrong what you did was. I didn't even know how wrong it was until I look at how it's affected my life. And luckily, I stayed on my career because I was already working and I didn't need him to work. But I've talked to a lot of women who just left. And they call him a dream killer.
When I was reading my feed with all these women's stories, I wasn't, honestly, very surprised. Tarana Burke started this many years ago. Nobody listened. And now people are listening. And, unfortunately is the wrong word because it's happening, but we needed some, famous white women to say this in order to be heard. And so good for them, but the point that I want to make is that this has been said and has been talked about for decades now.
As long as humankind has been in existence, it has lived with violence. And sexual violence is certainly a form of violence. And violence has primarily to do with power. It's about overpowering individuals, violating their rights so that you can feel in a position of power. So it's not because it's Hollywood, but because it's a place where people of power are gathered.
I had gone for a meeting at the Tribeca offices at Miramax. He gave me a couple scripts. He told me that I was a great fit for the Miramax family. He said, welcome to the Miramax family, and I'll introduce you to all the writers and people that we work with, and we'll help you. I thought, that's amazing. I was on a part of town I didn't know very well, and he's like, I'll walk you to the subway. I know where the subway stop is. And we started walking. He's like, well, you know, my apartment's right here. Let me just run up, and I have to make a call. You want to come up with me real quick, and we'll just, you know. And I said, no. He's like, well, it might be a minute. Just come up with me real quick. So that was the first time I sort of overrode my instincts and went upstairs with him. But then once I was up there, he then again made me feel safe. Like, well, this is a meeting that we're having. And that's when we talked for maybe an hour about art, politics, books, you name it. So it's confusing when someone can talk to you about things like that and then also then be a predator. You don't see it coming. Well, it literally shifted for me when he left the room and came back the first time just with an open robe. So immediately I felt petrified. I remember he asked me to give him a massage, and I said no. And then he asked me about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 ways, you know, again and again and again. And I had to come up with a lot of different ways to say no and explain why. And then he left the room. This time, he came back fully naked. Am I gonna, I mean, is he gonna rape me? Is that what's getting ready to happen here? Is that what he's come for? And then my second reaction was, I will not let this happen. I didn't want that to be what happened to me. I didn't want that to be my story. And so I used what I had, which was my voice and my truth. And I was like, there's no way that he's gonna get me, you know? There was no rape to report, so you don't really feel like you can go to the police. I don't want anyone to know. I'm feeling embarrassed and ashamed. I didn't trust the system enough or our culture enough to feel like if I went forward, that I would be protected. And I was probably right.
In the past, when you came forward with one of these allegations, there was no upside. Daryl Hannah was pushing furniture in front of her hotel room door to keep him out and told anyone that would listen. What happened? She was taken off a press tour for Kill Bill. There was no upside. You would either be smeared in the press, you would lose your career, your reputation would be trashed, and perhaps you would lose the biggest role of your career. I mean, why would you come out against someone like that? And he knew that. And he knew that. And that's why that behavior was so predatory and so prolific.
I'm gonna take a shower. You sit there and have a drink. Water.
Don't drink. Can I stay on the bar?
No, you must come here now.
No.
Please.
No, I don't want to.
I'm not doing anything with you.
I know.
You're embarrassing me.
I'm sorry. I
No,
cannot.
come in.
No, yesterday was a kind of aggressive for me. I need to know a person to
I
be
won't
touched.
do a thing.
I
swear my children. Please come in. On everything. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Please come in now, and 1 minute, and if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my
Why
jacket,
yesterday you touched my wrist?
Oh, please, I'm sorry, just come on, I'm used to that. Come on.
Are you used to that?
Yes, come in. Here.
No, but I'm not used to that.
5 minutes. Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes.
I know.
I don't think he's a sex addict. He's a power addict. Everything he did, everything that drove him was about dominance with men and women. He put an enormous amount of energy into humiliating men and an enormous amount of energy into getting women to submit. That was what drove him, his overarching need for power.
And there would always be the yelling, the screaming, the belittling, and there was always the threat. I know your boss. I can have you whacked.
It was a very stressed out culture in the offices of Miramax, and people really worked very hard. They worked really long hours. It was routine that I would get phone calls at home, like on a Sunday night. Women, they were like walking ulcers.
I will tell you that I saw smart, capable, well-adjusted people. They would walk in that office, take a beating, and convince themselves the next day that he still loved me.
Hickenlooper, you're a fucking idiot, loser. You're a loser. In fact, I'm gonna take out a full-page ad in Variety tomorrow that says, Hickenlooper is a loser and don't ever hire him for anything because he's a fucking idiot. Click.
Has someone coerced you into being here?
Do you count Harvey Weinstein as a coercer?
Now, Harvey Weinstein is like a big, powerful film guy, right?
Yes, I do all my movies for Harvey Weinstein. That's Miramax for all of you.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to do them there, but he will coerce you to do with things.
And so Harvey said, I tell you what, go on and talk about your movie. Is that what Harvey said?
Yeah.
And in return, what will Harvey do for you?
Nothing.
Really? Well, what's wrong with that equation?
If you think about the entertainment business, you go in those meetings and you listen to people and they sound like they're agreeing when in fact they're having terrible, ferocious disagreements. Harvey's never been like that. He doesn't smile and wear beige. He pounds tables, says what he wants. And, you know, being the biggest bully in the room sometimes will get you what you want.
Harvey wants to reshoot on Factory Girl. And one of the things he wants to reshoot is the sex scene. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna hump her and hump her and hump her and hump her, and then you're gonna flip her over and do her the other way. And his eyes are lighting up. And then and then you're gonna get on top of him, and there's gonna be a tear. And the whole audience is gonna tear with you. That's what it's gonna be like. Now, Hickenlooper, storyboard this fucker.
Most of the rumors that I knew were from Harvey himself. He would say, you know, I had an affair with this actress or that actress. And, you know, I took all of that with a grain of salt. Somebody knew. There were people that brought young actresses to his hotel room. Whoever had that story and didn't write it should be held responsible, because we should have known this. This is violating women. This is silencing women. The idea that he's committed these kinds of atrocities on women, I want to know who knew.
These people all knew there was an issue with Hollywood. And it wasn't until there was a couple of women who had the bravery to come out and actually say something about it that these people all want to stand up and do something. Whether you knew Harvey was it or whatever, you knew there was an issue in this industry. And for you now to come out and act like, oh, I've suddenly discovered this Pandora's box of shit, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know was around before, is bullshit.
Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Everybody knows.
Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
Everybody knows.
The guy behind those Meryl Streep posters, Sabo. He's a controversial street artist known for skewering liberals.
She's a very powerful person in Hollywood, and people like that, their feet need to be held to the fire. Meryl Streep gave a standing ovation to Roman Polanski, and he anally raped at least one 14-year-old girl. She called Weinstein God. They had a hell of a relationship. I have a young lady writer that lives upstairs from me, and she told me when she was in college that they pulled all the young ladies aside and said, don't work for the Weinstein organization because he's going to hit on you, and if you don't respond accordingly, your career's ruined in this town. And that's a low-rent, low-level totem pole writer. It's like, if she knew, how the hell did Meryl Streep not know?
I think I'm taking the hit for an entire group of people who worked with Harvey Weinstein. But the people, you know, what's difficult about this is that it precedes him, these abuses.
I think it speaks to the power of Harvey Weinstein. People knew he was a dog, they knew he was a bully, they knew he was a skirt chaser, but it was allowed to go on because he had so much power. If he was some schmuck in a mailroom, he would be in jail.
So basically, I thought, okay, he's done chasing me. Then comes the wrap party, and he said, how are you getting back to New York? I have a flight. You coming on my plane? That's okay, Mr. Weinstein. I'm good. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful experience, but no, you're coming on my plane. Don't worry about it. It's all set up. I'll set it up. So I immediately called the person who was arranging my travel, and I said, don't take me off my flight. Whatever you do, whoever calls you, do not take me off that flight. And I woke up an hour early before I was supposed to leave, and I got a cab to the airport. So I checked my bags. I'm waiting at the gate, and over the loudspeaker, all of a sudden, I'm being paged. Melissa Sagemiller, please pick up the white emergency phone. Holy shit, this can't be, he can't. And picked up the phone. It was his assistant, the same woman who's orchestrated all of these lovely incidents. Melissa, the car's outside. We have your bags. Please get in the car. You have my bags? What do you mean you have my bags? How did they get my bags? Did he take my bags out of the plane? Did he? And that couldn't have been legal back then. I just laughed. I said, you win, great. I got in the car. I marched up into the plane, and he's sitting there, you know, on his seat, and he goes, come sit next to me. And I just said, Harvey, you motherfucker. What are you doing? And he just, you know, looked at me and said, I always get what I want.
These men who have done these things to women, they have been, through their success and ambition and drive, they have been in a bubble where they can have anything they want. They don't have to go get their bottle of sparkling water. Somebody else does that for them. They don't make their plane reservations. They don't pick their kids up from school. Everything they want, they can have. And if they are aggressive sexually, that kind of power, sooner or later, is going to drive them to think, not only do I want somebody to fetch my sparkling water, I want to sleep with this person. And I can because I get, in life, everything I want.
With Harvey, there was no such word as no, and I think that's really the crux of the matter.
Harvey Weinstein's former assistant at Miramax is breaking her non-disclosure agreement and revealing his alleged sexual harassment. Zelda Perkins and a colleague split a settlement with Miramax of about $425,000 and signed a non-disclosure agreement back in 1998. Miramax is not commenting and says that the current owners were not involved in the company at that time.
Well, one way that Harvey Weinstein and many other of these powerful men were able to keep behaving this way is there was a whole legal regime, a legal system that kept this quiet. And that we call it, for shorthand, the NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And what happens and what continues to happen is women may step forward, make an accusation, and then the accused comes back at them, says, how can we make this go away?
Non-disclosure agreements are an emotional weapon used continually against victims of sexual harassment. And what they involve are silencing a woman, taking away her voice. By telling her she cannot talk about this ever, she is like stuck in the space of pain. So it hangs over their head like a dark cloud of shame.
We were at Venice Film Festival. I had a fairly new Miramax colleague with me for the festival, and he tried to rape her. He swore on the life of his wife and his children that nothing at all had happened, which was his best get out of jail card that he used quite a lot. The lawyers made it very clear that we didn't have very many options. We had no physical evidence, and ultimately it would be two under 25-year-olds women words against Harvey Weinstein, Miramax Film Corporation, and essentially the Disney company. Because I naively believed that if we went to Disney, they would be horrified and would fire Harvey or help us with the proceedings.
He sent his London lawyer to see them with a wad of cash. And he basically said, we'll give you this cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars each, right? In return, you sign this non-disclosure agreement. Oh, and by the way, you don't get a copy. It stays in the law firm.
It sounds odd, but for me, this was really where my trauma started and my abuse started. I could deal with Harvey. What I had no equipment for was to deal with the legal system. Essentially, I'd gone to the parents to say, somebody's done something bad, and the law couldn't help me.
Those agreements allowed a lot of these men to repeat the behavior. And I would say that there's a legal cast. Gloria Allred, who's the leading sexual harassment lawyer in the country, is very open about this. She believes in those agreements. She thinks sometimes that's the best thing for a woman to do. But Gloria Allred will come out, make a big announcement about a case, then strike one of these deals. She makes a lot of money. These are big money deals. And the thing goes away. So there's just been so many layers of complicity, so many layers of, blankets of silence.
Harvey Weinstein, he's not the exception. I can assure you of that. There have been many, many confidential settlements, and that's the reason you don't hear more about this. I can say to an absolute certainty that it is widespread and that it is harmful to the victims.
You don't own me. I'm not just one of your many toys. You don't own me. Don't say I can't go with other boys.
Amazing, thank you.
I'd love to think that human nature is enough for people to say, this is wrong, let's do something about it. But the reality is that people don't change until they have to, until there's real consequences. And consequences typically involve money. And in that industry, money could be the deciding factor about whether companies are going to change.
I received an email from a reporter at the New York Times. She simply said that she was writing an article on sexual harassment and she felt that I was in a position to help her. And she said, you know, I've been going through old shows of the O'Reilly Factor, and I see that you used to appear regularly and then you suddenly disappeared. Do you want to tell me why you left the show? Because what she was looking for, she had 8 women who had signed non-disclosure agreements and couldn't talk to her. She was looking for the one woman who hadn't made a claim, the one woman who could be the voice of all the women silenced by Bill O'Reilly and Fox News. And I was that woman.
Bill O'Reilly is feeling the heat in the wake of a New York Times report saying at least 5 women have received financial settlements after complaining of sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior. Today, another woman spoke out, therapist Wendy Walsh, who says she didn't get a job at Fox after she rebuffed O'Reilly's advances.
Every allegation is a conviction. Every allegation in this area is a conviction. This was a hit job, a political and financial hit job.
Now, prior to this, Fox operated on old-fashioned traditional gender roles, and they basically did the math. If the O'Reilly Factor brought in $400 million every year in ad sales, and they had to pay off $25–35 million in sexual harassment lawsuits, it was just the cost of doing business. And who was going to complain, especially if women were paid off? But the biggest kudos for this whole change goes to Mercedes-Benz. Because 1 hour after my first press conference with Lisa Bloom, which was the day after the New York Times article came out, Mercedes-Benz made a statement saying, we support our women employees, we support our women customers. And they pulled their advertising from the O'Reilly Factor. And what we saw in the next week was 70 other advertisers following suit behind Mercedes-Benz.
There are billions of dollars at stake in business deals, and they made a business decision that they could prosper more without me.
There's a definite sense of hopefulness in the air following this MeToo movement, which is incredible. But on the other hand, I feel as though it's a little early to be patting ourselves on the back for it. There's still so much left to be done. I feel that there are so many more victims who have not had their voices, their stories, their truths told. And I think in part that's due to fear. I can say from personal experience, if you speak out against Woody Allen, you are met with all the clout and the power and the prestige. That is sort of enormous battleship that you come up against, and it is daunting and it is terrifying, and they tear you apart. I mean, I have to say, when I first came out with my first piece in 2014, I did not expect that I would be the one on trial.
Woody Allen's daughter, Dylan, wrote a scathing article detailing her claims of sexual abuse by her dad when she was just 7 years old.
This happened to me when I was a small child. I was so determined to keep my head buried in the sand and not let it affect me that by the time I realized that it was an issue, it had become overwhelming. Honestly, I haven't had a full 8 hours of sleep in about 10 years. I wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks and cold sweat. I think there are other victims, yes. I think he's married to her.
There has been an attempt to link my relationship with Suni with charges of child molestation. They're 2 completely different things. I have an adult relationship with Suni. To those people that feel that it's questionable or not their taste, she's too young for me, or she's Mia's daughter, or whatever they want to think, I'll take that heat. That does not mean that I should be charged with child molestation.
It's all because of Woody Allen. I don't know what would have happened to me without him. I mean, he wrote Annie Hall. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's the greatest gift that was ever given to me by anyone professionally, obviously, and he's a genius. That's it. He's a genius.
And he's obviously known for having created extraordinary roles for women for many, many, many years. And to join that lineage of incredible actresses made me feel immensely privileged, and was a responsibility as well.
I was so hopeful and, I guess, naive, and I expected something. And the fact that it didn't happen was crushing. It was invalidating. It was a reminder of how small and insignificant I was, that these people, their careers, their awards, their movies, their art is more important than the suffering of one little girl. And that is something to get mad about.
I think right now it's almost impossible for people to separate the artist from the acts. I don't think it can happen right now. Now, this is in the thick of this story, this national tidal wave. Maybe in a few years this will change, but no way right now. And that's, again, where fairness may not always be at play. It won't always be fair, but it's part of this reckoning.
I can't separate the two. The only thing that stops me sometimes is that I know, in the same way, you know, it's a double standard, why I don't want all of my coworkers at Miramax to be judged by Harvey and Bob. I also realize that Annie Hall was made by hundreds, if not thousands of people. You know, Rosemary's Baby was made by hundreds, thousands of English Patient was made by hundreds of people. Does their work get maligned because, you know, somebody worked on this?
Great talent often comes with great sins. That's always been the case. Still the case, whether we like it or not. Maybe it'll be less the case in the future, I don't know. But larger-than-life characters are larger than life in many, many ways.
Unlike many of the actresses that have come forward with their stories, I met Harvey Weinstein by chance. I had met a girlfriend out for dinner who happened to be having dinner with a group of people that included Harvey Weinstein. And he talked to me about my career, about news and politics and history. And I will say it was all very flattering to be taken seriously by a man like Harvey Weinstein. So when he asks you, hey, have you been to this restaurant? I'm one of the owners. Let me show you around. Let me show you the kitchen. Let me show you the downstairs. There's no red flags that went off. As soon as we walked downstairs into the kitchen and I realized the kitchen was empty, I said to him, like, all right, I saw it. Let's go back upstairs. No, you didn't see it. You didn't see the whole kitchen. Keep going, keep walking. And we're walking down a narrow hallway to the back of this kitchen. And it wasn't until we got there that I realized it was a dead end. And that's when you feel stupid. And I said to him, I'm gonna go back upstairs. And that's when he blocked my exit with his body. He leaned in to kiss me. And I brushed him off. I pushed him away. And I said, I'm so sorry. Of course, I'm apologizing. I'm so sorry. And that's when he said, can you just stand there and be quiet? And as I'm wondering what's going to happen, he, pulled out his penis and began to masturbate. And I thought, what am I watching right now? You're kind of just stunned and frozen. And I'm thinking, am I really seeing Harvey Weinstein masturbate in front of me? Is this happening right now? I remember leaning against the wall, like arms folded, like, I cannot believe this is what's happening. And when he finished, which thankfully was pretty quick, I said to him, can I go now? Are we done here? The oddest part about this whole encounter with him is that he called me the next day at work. I just want to let you know I had a great time last night. Is that his idea of a great time? I was just shocked on the phone, and I thought maybe he was like mentally not there.
I have two theories about why men expose themselves to women. First of all, men are more visually wired than women are. So they assume that we have the same visual wiring. If a woman were to masturbate in front of a man, he would become aroused. If a woman sees a man masturbate, we are disgusted and run away. Okay, guys, we do not want to see it. We want to feel it in the dark. So, secondly, so many of these men have a narcissistic injury. And I'm suspecting that in their sexual development, there was a lot of shame around sex. And when you are shamed while you're developing as a sexual person, that shame becomes complicit with your arousal. Therefore, when they feel shame, they become aroused.
This recent calling out of sexual assault has been a long time coming. It's good. It's like cutting out tumors. It's messy and it's complicated and it is gonna hurt, but it's necessary and we'll all be healthier for it. And it sucks, and some of our heroes will be taken down and we will discover bad things about people we like, or in some cases, people we love.
Our first guest, a talented, funny, beloved comedian who just set a record. 3 sold-out performances at Madison Square Garden. Here he is, Louis C.K.
You can be a great guy. You can do a great job. You can be an amazing artist. You can be an amazing senator and still treat women badly or treat people that work for you badly. It's possible to be both.
I loved it. When I discovered masturbation, I was so happy. I loved it. Everybody loves it. Nobody's, oh, this fucking sucks. It's pretty universally liked. But,
Louis C.K. I'm a huge Louis C.K. fan. I mean, he's like a philosopher of our generation. And to hear the allegations about him, oh yeah, it's heartbreaking.
I'm a blue comedian, you would say. I enjoy the filth. I enjoy the funny. I enjoy the physical. I like all kinds of comedy. I'm not easily offended. But, you know, when it comes to harassment, when it comes to, you know, shitting on other people's dreams and masturbating in front of them, and it's unacceptable. It's harassment. You know, I'm at work on a pilot, going to walk to set to shoot. That's what you work for as a you work to get to that day, to that moment. I'm getting touch-ups on my face, and the next thing I know is his sweaty red face is in my face, asking if he can jerk off in front of me in my dressing room.
The stories are true. That's what Louis C.K. said in a statement today, less than 24 hours after news broke that multiple women have accused the comedian of sexual misconduct. At the time, I said to myself that what I did was okay because I never showed a woman my private parts without asking first, which is also true. But what I learned later in life, too late, is that when you have power over another person, asking them to look at your private parts isn't a question. It's a predicament for them.
This is uncharted territory. This is extremely uncomfortable. And when he did that, he put everyone in his life in an uncomfortable position. For me, when he did it to me, he put the production company in an uncomfortable position, the network, all the other castmates. He put me, he put his pregnant wife, his daughter at home, his friends, everybody in an uncomfortable position. He victimized everybody.
It's a real mind fuck, you know, because I love Louis, but Louis did these things. Both of those statements are true. So I hope it's okay if I am at once very angry for the women he wronged and the culture that enabled it, and also sad, because he's my friend.
This is so massive that people are gonna get caught up. You know, I don't know that taking Louis C.K. off of shows that he created and still air it and still have a studio make a profit from it, I'm not sure.
I do believe that there's a spectrum of behavior, right? And we're gonna have to figure out like what, you know, there's a difference between, you know, patting someone on the butt and rape or child molestation, right? Both of those behaviors need to be confronted and eradicated without question, but they shouldn't be conflated.
The next phase of this reporting we all realize right now has to get into more of the nuance. Somebody like a Bill Cosby level offense of drugging women and raping them and a kind of flirtation at the office, they're not the same thing. And I think so far as a society, there's a kind of acceptance like that it was so bad for so long that some glass is gonna break unfairly.
What's weird is that I think that in this time, like, people are kind of, they're trying to make sense of it in some ways as well, and categorizing the acts in degrees. Like, this category is real bad. This category is not that big of a deal. This category, get over it. Here's, I guess the question would be really is what I would want to ask is, I don't know, when is it bad then? Rape? What about just a shove? What about just a tit grab with a hair pull, a ball sack show for a second? Are those okay or are those still wrong? When do these experts feel it's wrong then? That would be my question. Harassment, assault, rape, victimizing another person in any capacity is wrong. Period.
You can't police human nature, only up to a point. And so are we ever going to fix this thing, male-female relations? No. There's always going to be bad dates and bad sex. And there are always going to be differing opinions about what the line is between just goofy, jerky behavior and behavior that really is abusive and must be called to account. We're never going to find the exact distinctions because abuse is sometimes in the eye of the beholder.
Huge debate over a story about a date with comedian Aziz Ansari, a date she described as, quote, the worst night of my life.
The problem is that, as Margaret Atwood put it so perfectly, right now you are guilty because accused.
She says the 34-year-old missed or ignored verbal and nonverbal cues that she was distressed.
You had an unpleasant date and you did not leave. That is on you.
But one thing that I keep hearing coming up over and over is the question of, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she leave? But no one's really asking, why didn't he stop?
If this story came out 10 years ago, it wouldn't be discussed in the same way. It's an indication of how powerful the MeToo movement is, that it is being discussed and being bandied about.
But you're okay that it's out?
I think he should have been like, just watched Netflix with her.
I am seeing some changes, I am, in people's behavior. What I'm not seeing is a change in, like, actual systems. But I think people are afraid right now. A lot of men are very like, can I say that? I hope that's okay that I say that. And I think that's great. Like, let them be afraid for a little while until, you know, the things kind of balance out a little bit.
I don't know how this is going to turn around on women. I don't know what the blowback is going to be, but there will be blowback because it's like, no one's going to want to touch you. It's like the only guys these women are going to be around are a bunch of fucking soy boys who are male feminists, and they're not the guys the women really want.
I can tell you that conversations among men in the office, especially men who are in the executive suite, are, you know, can you meet a woman in the office for a casual drink after work? What happens if something is said or misinterpreted, and it can be used against you years later?
I mean, when you say, like, where are the lines and how will we know what's appropriate behavior, what's appropriate flirting, it seems really easy to me. I mean, don't treat women in your office any different than you would treat a man in your office. Would you have a man come into your hotel room while you're naked in a bathrobe to have a business meeting? Would you be in a lotus position, naked, because you like to do hot yoga? No, of course you wouldn't. So this idea that I don't know what's acceptable anymore is bullshit. It's bullshit.
We are seeing a backlash to Me Too right now, and I think that's very healthy. Catherine Deneuve and the French women came out, and they said it's not wrong to be a sex object as well as to be free and independent women. We can be both. No, of course, that's very French, so they got slammed for that. And the women who are saying, yes, we've got to make distinctions are really getting slammed, especially by a group of younger women. The younger women are saying, no, you know, send them all to the guillotine. The older women are saying, okay, you know, let's not throw out due process along the way.
My answer to that is that there is no clear due process in many places, and that's why women have resorted to this. Or there is due process, but nothing actually happens. Or there is due process, and the person coming forward is the one who gets punished. And so that's why it's really important that we look at what that due process is. That's really the key to it all. And until there is proper due process, well, then all we can really do is write articles and put them on social media.
Some people have been calling this movement puritanical or a return to Victorian values. To these people, I want to say the current system is puritanical.
Every movement, every moment in history where we're trying to move forward, we have hard questions. What we all have to be able to agree on, I think we do, is that women should be entitled to go to work without being sexualized. I think we can agree on that. I think we can agree that women should be present and have positions in corporate America and corporate Canada, in the world, that makes them visible and gives them decision-making authority. Now, if we agree on those fundamental things, then I don't think we have to have a debate about whether the Aziz Ansari story is a compelling one. I mean, you can have that debate, or it's not. But we're not going to resolve the complexity of sexual politics on Twitter, nor are we going to resolve any arguments. That is not to direct the attack on the validity of this movement or this moment or the right to say, hey, look, something happened, go investigate it.
It's a huge story. I mean, it's going around the world. It's going into all professions. But I think it has to do partly with, you know, the moment in time that we're in, the Trump in the White House. Somebody's acknowledged his own sexual harassment and assault and with multiple witnesses, and nothing is done. And I think that has made women very frustrated, and men.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the you can do anything.
You know, with the current political climate the way it is, and with the president that we have in office, I think our country is in a very, very, you know, precarious state at best anyway. So I don't think that if the country gets bored at what we're doing, so be it.
I think of the giggler there, Billy Bush, you know, when Trump is saying those crass and vulgar things that I would like to think that if he said that to me, I would have squirmed, I would have been uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know if I would have punched him in the face, but men need to talk to their male colleagues and say, guys, if you witness, if you see something, you have to be part of the world that is now going to condemn it and come forward and bring it up and talk about it. Don't turn the other way.
A new claim that I made inappropriate advances during the interview to this writer. Take a look. You take a look. Look at her words. You tell me what you think. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Boasting about sexual assaults is actually a concerning sign. It means that he's not even at the place of contemplating this as a problem. So he's actually at a worse place than many of those who have admitted to committing assaults. So the greatest act we can do on this issue is to hold the president accountable.
We've been conducting an investigation for more than 4 months into the Weinstein Company, and our investigation, as demonstrated by the petition filed yesterday, uncovered a pervasive pattern of sexual harassment, intimidation, discrimination, and abuse at the Weinstein Company. And this is critically important. Both the board and management have legal duties to stop this type of misconduct. This is not something that is optional for management or the board of a corporation. And it is clear to us, and is set forth in our complaint, that the company's management was complicit in this pattern of misconduct. They knew what was happening. It was flagrant, it was flamboyant. They knew how pervasive it was, and not only did they fail to stop it, they enabled it and covered it up.
You know, you got law enforcement in 3 cities, London, New York, and LA, chasing Harvey. It's hard for me to imagine him coming back.
I would thank him, actually. You have now become the mascot for sexual harassment and sexual assault, and that's your legacy now. Not your Oscars, not your amazing career, not all the money you made for people. You're a pig. I mean, that's how everyone will remember you.
Let's go. And the charge, rape, first degree, criminal sexual act, first degree, rape, third degree, pre-sworn affidavit.
I think he's done. I think he needs to be in an orange jumpsuit. And I think that if the NYPD and the LAPD can do their job, then he just might be. But you never know.
This guy was one of the coolest guys on the planet. He created some of the most greatest films, and look what he's come to. I mean, it's pathetic. I don't need to say anything to him. He's done it to himself.
It is not irrelevant that the stuff came out when it was quite clear to everybody in the entertainment industry that Harvey Weinstein was no longer the powerful producer that he once was, that he wasn't winning the Oscars, that his company was on shaky financial ground. And I think when he was weak, and the people who urged other people to come forward, and we will never know this, they saw this man who had lorded it over them for so long, and they thought, he can't do it anymore, and now's the time we can get him.
It is interesting that it has taken a media star like this to catch the public's attention. I do this for a living, and I know that it is literally in every facet of life. It is in the financial industry, it's in restaurants, it happens everywhere, universities, and it's a matter of time before it filters its way to these other places, but people are fascinated with the entertainment industry. I don't know what that says about our culture, but that seems to be the tipping point.
My hope is that because you have a group that is relatively powerful and high profile, that those women can action what's happening at this moment and look beyond. It's going to require women every single place you can imagine to look. It's going to require them in Hollywood, in decision-making, directorial positions. Unless you change that, unless you begin to see women everywhere so that they made all the right speeches on the red carpet, and we've donated money to Time's Up, and it's all good now, so don't you worry. And if you believe that, you're pretty naive.